The Crystal Hall Gala was the kind of place where power walked in heels and wealth shimmered in every reflection. Tonight was supposed to be perfect, glamorous, and carefully scripted. But fate had already sharpened its edges. Near the stage stood Aaliyah Jordan, a fierce black tech CEO, chosen to receive the night's highest honor. Her rise had been unstoppable, but not everyone applauded her success. Across the room, billionaire Charles Whitman stared with icy disdain. A man convinced the world still belonged to people who looked like him. Within minutes, his empire would collapse, and the woman he mocked would become the very reason why. Stay until the end, because this is what happens when justice walks in wearing a crown. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Aaliyah Jordan grew up where hope didn't visit often. A small neighborhood, old streetlights, and a mother who worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on. People told Aaliyah that girls like her weren't meant to dream big, mainly black girls. But she refused to accept limits that someone else designed. Her brilliance in technology opened doors that once seemed sealed shut. Step by step, she built her company, TechHope, a groundbreaking platform providing digital education to underserved communities. Children who once lacked opportunities now had the tools to rewrite their futures. Investors who once ignored her began calling nonstop. Media outlets celebrated her as the mind changing the system. So when the Crystal Hall invited her to receive the Global Impact Award, Aaliyah knew this moment wasn't hers alone. It belonged to every woman who had been told she didn't belong in the boardroom. But jealousy brews in places of power. And the most dangerous hatred is the kind that comes dressed in a tuxedo. Charles Whitman, founder of Whitman Corporation, used to dominate the same market Aaliyah was transforming. His empire was built on exclusivity, a fortress designed to keep people like her out. Tonight, he wasn't the star, and he couldn't stand it. The gala buzzed with laughter, violin strings, clinking glasses, but beneath the surface, whispers floated like smoke. Some admired Aaliyah. Others silently questioned her presence. As her heels clicked across the floor, she felt eyes watching, judging. For many, a black woman in power was still an anomaly, too bold to normalize. Charles approached her slowly, leaning on a gold-plated cane. His entourage followed close behind, afraid to drift too far from his influence. He glanced at her designer gown, at her award-winning confidence, and smirked. Disdain curled in his lips, the kind that didn't require words to say you don't deserve this. Then he spoke, quietly, yet loud enough for humiliation to spread. He said her success was charity, not earned. He said investors only supported her to look diverse. He suggested she should be thankful for people like him who built the industry. Aaliyah kept her composure, though her heart tightened. She reminded herself that she wasn't alone. She carried generations of silenced voices, and tonight she would not be silenced. The crowd around them laughed awkwardly, eager to stay aligned with power rather than truth. Charles walked away confident, believing he had put her in her place, but the night had plans different from his arrogance. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Screens across the ballroom lit up, at first. Just the Whitman Corporation logo appeared. Then, chaos. Confidential documents burst onto the screens. Illegal transactions. Fraud. Bribery. Discrimination. Secret memos blocking black-led startups from entering the market. Gasps spread like wildfire. Reporters scrambled. Cameras recorded everything. The carefully polished billionaire image shattered like thin glass. Charles froze, his jaw trembling. The world he controlled had slipped from his grip, violently, publicly. The system he rigged could no longer protect him. Security rushed in. Executives hurried toward exits. Investors' furious voices echoed. His cane shook under his hand. Aaliyah watched, calm, steady, not with revenge in her eyes, but with justice. Because the truth was, Aaliyah's team had discovered his crimes months ago. Tonight was simply the perfect stage to reveal them, in front of the exact people he once manipulated. Karma didn't come quietly. It arrived broadcast in 4K. Charles tried to shout down the storm, but his voice was lost between screams and phone alerts. He demanded loyalty from those who once worshipped him, but power earned through fear does not survive collapse. Government officials were already inside the hall. They approached him with cold, sharp authority. For the first time in decades, Charles Whitman had no script, no control, no exit strategy. His wrists were pulled back, handcuffs clicked. A sound louder than the orchestra ever could be, eyes of the elite widened as the man they once bowed to was dragged through the same marble. Floors he walked on like a king. He looked back only once. His gaze met Aaliyah's. No words, just the realization that the woman he mocked was the one who ended his reign. In that moment, the power dynamic of an entire industry shifted. The gala resumed. The air felt cleaner, freer. Aaliyah was called to the stage, not just as an award recipient, but as a symbol of transformation. She took the microphone. Her voice was steady, intense yet emotional. She didn't mention Charles. Not once. Tonight wasn't about his fall, but about every black girl who was told she shouldn't dream so loud. She spoke about equity, about resilience, about rewriting the rules instead of asking permission to join a broken system. The applause rising from the audience was no longer polite. It was powerful. It carried respect. Charles Whitman lost everything that night. His wealth, his global influence, the legacy he believed was eternal. But his downfall wasn't tragedy. It was accountability. Aaliyah didn't leave the gala as a victim. She left as a force of change. And millions watching would believe they could challenge injustice too. Because this story wasn't just hers. It belongs to every person who was underestimated because of their skin, their gender, or their roots. So ask yourself, if the world fears your power, is that because you don't belong, or because you're about to change it? Where are you watching from?